Hello, folks. The Celtic Nerd here, being another nerdy. Well, actually, okay. This is not a nerdy video, folks. This is actually a very personal video. You'll see a man's face on my screen, and the man on the screen right now is, in fact, my uncle. And it was just last week that I found out that my uncle, Keith Benson, died in hospital during a surgery. For reasons that I will keep to myself, I did not go to the funeral. But I wanted to do something nice for a man who, despite his own complications and his own demons, always made me feel like I had someone rooting for me. Someone who always told me that I could achieve whatever the hell I wanted to achieve if I went out and pursued it. Now, as I said, he was a complicated man with some demons. He battled for, I believe, possibly a decade or more with drug addiction and such, and it has caused him to do things that he was not proud of. But he was also I do not want that to be the only thing out there about this man. He was a very gentle and a very kind soul. He spent some time living with my family, and I remember the laughs that me and my twin sister had with him. He always told us funny stories about his tattoos. I still remember, and it will always be ingrained into my memory, his tiger tattoo on his forearm. When I got interested in martial arts, and when I got interested in creating stories, every time I seen him, he'd be like, "Oh, what did you learn? Have you written any new stories?" And he always got very enthusiastic about hearing what's new in my life. Every time our paths cross, he would always have the warmest of smiles and ask me, "How's your mother? How's your family? Are you still keeping up with your fencing? Are you still writing stories?" And I would just sorry, folks. I'm actually tearing up. Oh, it's actually difficult to get through this. And it always made my day, seeing how enthusiastic he was about talking, like asking me about what was going on in my life. And he always made me feel heard. Like, he will, whereas at times I've grown up, I always felt like I was being listened to but not heard by some of my extended families, like uncles and grandparents, especially from the Benson side of my family, but not with him. Never with him. He always made me felt hurt, and his encouragements have always stuck with me. Now, whenever he would always ask me, like, what's your current story you're working on? And like there are even times where he always remembered like when I told him like, oh yeah, I'm no longer writing my stories, but I'm now telling my stories through D&D. He would ask like, oh, tell us a story. Like then I was like, okay. I would then tell him some of the I would tell him some of the wacky things that my players would have done in terms of my story, like the stories that I've written for them, and how I had to always stay on my toes and create a new thread of story. He listened when I started Ludosport. He is like, how's that going? And he's like, have you been competing, like, and all that, like, and I would tell him, and he would get so enthusiastic, and he'd be like, you're gonna win, like, and he was always in my corner, always cheering me on, in his way. But yeah, like, now there is a huge lump of guilt that I have with my uncle, and that is because for years I allowed someone to poison my view of him, to the point where I did not there was a time I did not welcome into my home because of what I was told about him, to only then discover that eventually it was a lie. So I wish there was a moment where, before the end, where I could have properly said sorry, but knowing him, he would have just laughed and said, oh, you're just trying to look out for your little sister. Because I knew, because of what she was told, there were periods where she was scared of him. And yeah, like, I just wish that I would have invited him in, made him a cup of tea, and just tell him just tell him some of the new news. But no, every time I cross paths with him, even after I did that, when I crossed paths with him in the city centre, he just had a smile on his face. Always just had a big smile on his face, and asking me how are things, what's new with me, and everything. So that is why I'm making this video, to talk about the goodness that was in this man's heart. And now that, after all the times of fighting his addiction, I truly hope that whatever form, wherever his journey now takes him, whether I'm maybe one of the religions in the world is correct and there is an afterlife, or maybe reincarnation is a thing, because that is supported by physics. I do not know, and no one in the world truly knows. But I truly hope that wherever his current journey is on, he has at some level some peace, and I will truly miss him. Goodbye, Keith Benson.